When my mother-in-law handed me divorce papers at her own son's birthday dinner, smiling as if she had just gifted me a candle, I felt my life crack open in front of strangers. But humiliation has a strange way of sharpening the senses, and as the truth unraveled, I discovered that the betrayal ran much deeper than a failing marriage. There were secrets, financial ones, romantic ones, and one devastating conspiracy centered around that luxury birthday party in Malibu. Once I understood what they'd planned for me, I crafted a revenge so precise that every guest would witness the truth in real time. And when the final reveal hit the room, every person who had doubted me understood. I still remember the way the Pacific breeze brushed against my skin that evening. Like California was trying to warn me. The sun had just begun sinking behind the Malibu cliffs, painting the sky with strokes of pink and gold. And for a moment, I actually believed I was stepping into a celebration, not an ambush. It was supposed to be his night. My husband, Daniel, 35 years old. Successful. Charming. Polished like a man carved out of good intentions, or so I thought. And me? I had spent the entire day trying to look perfect for him, hair pinned, dress pressed, heels high enough to hurt just a little. Because that's what you do when you're trying to hold on to something that's slipping out of your hands. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for her. His mother, Veronica Langford. A woman who walked like she owned every room, every conversation, every person she laid her eyes on. She had the kind of smile that made you feel like she was assessing your worth and always finding you just slightly under her standards. When I stepped into the luxury event hall overlooking the ocean, she greeted me first. That should have been the first red flag. "Darling," she said, pulling me into a hug that felt like being wrapped in cold silk, "I have something special for you." I forced a polite smile. "Is this about Daniel's birthday?" "I know," he said. "Oh no," she interrupted, her voice sugar-coated but sharp underneath. "This gift is entirely for you." She slipped a white envelope into my hand. A heavy one. Weighted. Intentional. Final. A strange chill crawled up my arm as I looked down at it. Printed on the front, in her perfect handwriting, were my initials. ARL. I remember swallowing hard, trying to ignore the knots forming in my stomach. "What is this?" I whispered. Her smile widened, too satisfied, too rehearsed. "Open it. I wish I hadn't." Because inside that envelope were divorce papers. Signed by Daniel. Dated 2 days earlier. Neatly prepared like a gift she couldn't wait to watch me unwrap. For a second, I just blinked. My brain couldn't catch up to what my eyes were reading. "Why?" My voice cracked. "I didn't even know." "Oh sweetheart," she said, touching my arm as if comforting a child. "Everyone else knew this was coming. You've been struggling. And Daniel needs someone who can support his future. Not weigh it down." Her words sliced through me. Right there, in a hall filled with people arriving, smiling, chatting, waiting for a celebration, she handed me the destruction of my marriage like it was part of the decor. My heart thudded so loudly I could barely hear the music starting in the background. I searched the room frantically for Daniel. But he wasn't there. Of course he wasn't. Cowards don't stay for their own explosions. And then, I realized something that made my blood turn cold. Veronica wanted me to open it here. In public. In front of the guests walking in. So she could watch me break. I should have walked away. I should have left those papers on the table, turned around, and never looked back. But humiliation does something strange to the human soul. It awakens a quiet, dangerous clarity. So instead, I looked her straight in the eyes. And for just a moment, her smile faltered. Because I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't crumble like she expected. I simply asked, "Where is Daniel?" She blinked, surprised by my calm. "He'll be here soon. He wanted me to give those to you personally. It was important to him that this be civilized." Civilized. Right. The room felt smaller. The music sharper. The ocean beyond the glass windows suddenly louder. I could hear whispers forming around me. Guests pausing. Eyes turning. Judgment spreading like wildfire. And then, just when I thought the moment couldn't get any more humiliating, Veronica lifted her champagne glass, tapped it lightly with her nail, and said, "Let's begin the speeches." My fingers tightened around the divorce papers. And I felt something ignite inside me, a spark I didn't know I still had. If she wanted a spectacle, she was going to get one. But not the one she planned. Because I had just noticed something inside the envelope. Something she clearly didn't know was there. Something that would destroy everything she'd built. What would you do if your mother-in-law gifted you divorce papers in public? He didn't move. Not when the guests formed a half circle. Not when Veronica raised her glass with that smug, glittering smile. Not even when someone whispered, a little too loudly. I just stood there, frozen in place. Holding the papers that shattered my marriage. And the tiny slip of something wedged between them. At first I thought it was just an extra sheet. A duplicate. But when I slid it out with my thumb, my heart stumbled inside my chest. It wasn't a legal document. It was a handwritten note. Folded. Creased. Rushed. And unmistakably written by Daniel. My hands shook slightly as I unfolded it, shielding it behind the divorce pages so Veronica wouldn't see. His handwriting was messy, slanted, like he had written it under stress. There were only 12 words. 12 words that hollowed out my lungs. Mom, make sure she signs it. Before the video goes public. Video? Before? What video? My vision blurred. My stomach flipped. And suddenly the humiliation wasn't the worst part anymore, it was the fear. What had they recorded? What were they planning? My mind spun back to everything from the past weeks. Daniel's late nights. His sudden coldness. His refusal to talk. The way he guarded his phone like it contained nuclear codes. A video. Of me? Of him? Of us? I couldn't breathe. Before I could process anything, a voice echoed through the hall speakers. Ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome the man of the hour. Daniel Langford. I looked up in a panic. He walked in smiling, confident, groomed, glowing under the chandelier lights. The crowd cheered. He waved, shook hands, kissed cheeks. He didn't look like a man whose marriage had just ended. He looked like a man who had planned this night. And when his eyes finally landed on mine, he froze. Just for a second. Barely noticeable to anyone else. But I saw it. The flicker of annoyance. The silent. Why hasn't Mom handled it yet? Then he approached slowly, cautiously, like I was something fragile that might break too loudly. Hey, he said under his breath, smiling for the guests while speaking through his teeth. You're supposed to be in the back. We had a plan. A plan? I whispered. For my public execution? He swallowed, jaw tightening. You weren't supposed to open that here. Oh, I hissed softly. But your mother insisted. His smile stiffened. Still pretending for the audience. That woman, God. She's impatient. Look. Let's just get this over with quietly. Sign the papers. Then we can talk. Talk. You want to talk after I legally erase myself from your life? His eyes darted to the crowd. Not here, not now. Please. There it was, the panic. Not because he cared about me. But because he cared about optics. And then. Everything slowed. Because I saw it. Clear as daylight. A camera crew. At the far side of the hall. Professional lighting. Guests being gently placed around the room, as if blocking out a stage. My stomach turned again. They weren't just hosting a birthday party. They were filming something. I took one step back. Then another. Daniel, I whispered, voice cracking. What is that video you mentioned? He blinked. Too fast. Too often. I don't know what you're talking about. Lie. Another lie. And that's when Veronica swooped between us, placing a firm hand on my back as if guiding me toward the exit. Let's not make a scene. She murmured sweetly. Daniel has a presentation soon. One that needs a certain context. The blood in my veins went ice cold. A presentation. A video. A public divorce. They wanted to humiliate me. On camera. Online. At his birthday party. For God knows what reason. My throat tightened so painfully it felt like swallowing glass. I stepped back from both of them. No, I said, barely above a whisper. No more. Guests began to quiet down. Eyes turned. The music faded into background static. Daniel's jaw twitched. Veronica's smile sharpened. And I clutched the note inside my hand, its folded paper digging into my palm like a warning. Whatever you plan tonight, I said, breath trembling. It won't go the way you think. Veronica's eyes narrowed. Oh sweetheart, it already has. But she was wrong. Because she hadn't seen the back of that note. Not yet. And she certainly didn't know what Daniel accidentally wrote on it. Information that would explode their perfect little plan. But I did. You'd think the moment I realized they were plotting something against me, something filmed, something public, I would have run. But he didn't. I stood still, because of one thing. The back of Daniel's note. The ink was barely visible at first, smudged as if he'd written it in a hurry, maybe even with sweaty hands. But when I unfolded it completely, catching the paper under the chandelier light, the second line revealed itself. She doesn't know about the transfer yet. Keep that quiet. Transfer? What transfer? Money? Property? Something worse? My pulse quickened so sharply the world around me blurred. Voices turned into static. Lights turned into shapes. My thoughts splintered into panic and fury. They weren't just divorcing me. They were hiding something from me, something they needed me out of the picture for. I closed the note quickly before either of them noticed. My hands were trembling, but not from sadness anymore. From realization. This wasn't a divorce. This was a setup. As if on cue, the event coordinator tapped the microphone. Everyone, please take your seats. Program. Not celebration. Not party. Program. My stomach sank deeper. Daniel gave a quick nod to the crew. Yes, the crew, the camera crew, pretending to be part of the decor. Veronica adjusted her diamond necklace, chin high, eyes glinting with a victor's shine. And I took a step back toward the balcony doors. I needed air. I needed space. I needed to think before I did something I couldn't take back. But just as I turned, I heard Daniel whisper behind me. She still has the papers. We can't start with her holding them. Start? Start what? My breath hitched. I slipped out before Veronica's hand could latch onto my arm again. The cool ocean air hit me like a slap, sharp, sobering, necessary. I leaned against the railing, the waves crashing below like my thoughts colliding against each other. A video. A transfer. A public divorce. What were they planning? I forced myself to breathe deeply, but every inhale tasted like betrayal. I looked down at the papers again. Daniel's signature. The date. The cold, emotionless paragraphs that turned a marriage into paperwork. Then the note. Folded. Hidden. Burning a hole through my palm. I wanted to scream. I wanted to collapse. I wanted to throw the papers over the balcony and watch them disappear into the churning waves. But instead, I did something I didn't expect. I listened. Because inside the hall, through the cracked open doors, I heard voices. Daniel's. Veronica's. A third man's deep, confident, clipped. You're sure the transfer won't be contested? The man asked. Daniel replied. Not once she signs. She loses any claim. My heart thudded violently. Veronica added, with a smirk I could hear. And by the time the video goes public, her reputation will be too damaged to fight anything. Reputation. Damaged. A video. My fingers spazzed around the papers. What exactly is the video? The third man asked. Daniel hesitated. Just for a breath. And then? It's proof she's mentally unstable. My knees went weak. Veronica's voice followed, smooth, low. Once the audience sees the montage, the crying, the arguments, the way she behaved, it'll be obvious. She's unfit. She's volatile. She'll never win in court. Montage. Arguments. Crying. They had been filming me. Collecting moments. Cutting them into a narrative. A false one. My lungs seized painfully. All the times I had been emotional during our fights, during his affairs I didn't yet know were affairs, he had recorded them. All the breakdowns he caused. He turned into evidence against me. They weren't just taking my marriage. They wanted my credibility. My dignity. My sanity. As if I were some character in their script. The note sharpened in my palm as I clenched my fist. The unknown man asked quietly. And what about her emotionally? Won't this crush her? For a moment, silence. Then Daniel's voice, cold enough to stop the ocean. She's already broken. She just doesn't know it yet. Something in me shattered. Not the part that loved him. No, that part had died already. What shattered was the part that believed I was powerless. My tears didn't fall. Not then. Not after that. They dried up instantly. Because heartbreak turned into something else. Something sharp, burning, deadly calm. I jumped, spinning around. But it wasn't Daniel. Or Veronica. Or the man inside plotting my destruction. It was someone I never expected to see there. Someone who should not have known about the party. Someone who looked terrified for me. Her face pale. Eyes wide. "Ava," she said, gripping my arm, "you're not safe here." My blood froze. "What are you talking about?" She swallowed, glancing back at the hall. "I came because I saw the video." Video. She saw it. And her next words ripped the entire night open. "It's worse than you think." When I turned and saw Sophia, my chest tightened with a different kind of fear. Because Sophia wasn't just anyone. She was my closest friend. My almost sister. The one person I believed would stand by me through anything. But she wasn't supposed to be here. She didn't know Daniel. She hated Veronica. And she definitely wasn't on the guest list of a luxury Malibu birthday event filled with people who judged you by your jewelry and your bloodline. So when I saw her standing on that balcony, breathless, shaking, desperate, I knew something was catastrophically wrong. "Sophia?" My voice cracked. "How did you even know where I was?" She didn't answer at first. Her eyes darted behind me, toward the event hall, like she expected someone to drag her away at any moment. Then she whispered, "I saw the video, the one they're about to play." My stomach twisted so violently I felt dizzy. "What did you see?" She didn't move. Didn't blink, didn't breathe. "Ava, it's edited to make you look like a monster." Her voice splintered. "Like you're angry all the time. Like you're unstable. Like you're dangerous." I froze. A cold numbness spread through my fingers, through my arms, through every part of me. Dangerous. Unstable. Monster. Words sharp enough to slice a person from the inside. "I'm not." "I know," she whispered quickly. "I know you're not. But they made it look that way." "How did you even get the video?" I asked. She swallowed. Hard. "That's the part you're not going to like." Sophia pulled something out of her purse, her phone. She tapped the screen anxiously, then handed it to me. A message thread. From a number I recognized. Too well. Daniel. He had sent her a link earlier that day. "Sophia," I whispered, shaking. "Why would he send this to you?" She wiped her cheeks. Tears. She had been crying. Because he thought I'd believe it. He thought. She stopped herself. Then continued with a voice that trembled. He thought I'd take his side. My heart nearly split in two. Sophia had been there for every fight, every tear, every moment I thought my marriage was dissolving. If anyone knew the truth, it was her. And Daniel tried to weaponize her too. "What did he tell you?" I asked. My voice barely audible. She looked down. Ashamed. "He told me you'd been losing control. That he was scared. That you were making threats." "Threats? Me?" I felt my knees weaken, the balcony rails suddenly the only thing keeping me upright. Sophia reached out quickly, steadying me. "He lied, Ava. Every single thing he said about you is a lie. But the video, the way he edited it. If someone didn't know you, they'd believe it." A thick silence pulled between us. Then she whispered the one truth that shattered everything. "He was sending it to people. Your people. Friends. Co-workers. Anyone who knows you." My breath caught. "He's trying to isolate you," she continued. "Make you look unstable. So you'll sign whatever he puts in front of you. The divorce papers. The transfer. The staged humiliation." The entire night sharpened into focus. This wasn't about leaving me. This was about taking something from me. Something so important he needed to destroy my credibility first. Suddenly. A loud crash from inside the hall. Shattering glass. A microphone squealing. Guests gasping. Sophia and I exchanged a terrified glance. "That's them," she whispered. They're starting early. My pulse spiked. I stepped toward the balcony doors, forcing my breath to steady. The air inside felt different, charged, expectant, dangerous. And when I peered through the glass, my blood froze. Because on the main event screen, 20 feet wide, bright enough to blind the whole room, there I was, crying, screaming, begging Daniel to tell me the truth. Manipulated clips, sound bites, moments out of context, edited into a montage labeled, "Living with Insecurity." A cautionary story. A cautionary story. About me. The guests stared at the screen, stunned, confused, unsure of what they were watching. Daniel stood off to the side, pretending to look pained. Pretending. Always pretending. Veronica stood next to him, hand over her heart, performing her favorite role, the mother of a victim. Sophia grabbed my hand. "Ava, you need to leave now." But he didn't move. Not this time. Not anymore. Because as I kept staring at that massive screen, something unexpected appeared at the bottom of the video. A timestamp. A location tag. A file name. And that file name was something that made my heart stop completely. It wasn't a name I recognized. But it was one I knew I needed to. Because whatever it was, it had nothing to do with me. The file name was Project Mariposa Final Footage. Project Mariposa. The words pulsed on the bottom corner of the screen like a heartbeat. Wrong. Out of place. Like a secret leaking through a crack. I didn't know what it meant, but something deep inside me, intuition, instinct, survival, told me it wasn't an accident. Daniel was careless, yes. Cruel, absolutely. But sloppy? Rarely. If that name was there, it was tied to the reason they needed me gone. "What is that?" Sophia whispered beside me. "I don't know," I said, my voice barely a sound. "But it's not part of the video they made about me." She leaned closer to the glass doors, eyes narrowing. "What kind of birthday party shows a video with a project title?" Exactly. This wasn't just a presentation. This was something planned, funded, rehearsed. And I was the collateral damage. Through the glass, I watched strangers, guests who'd hugged me minutes earlier, lean forward in their seats, confused, concerned, whispering. Clips of me crying. Clips of me yelling, "Tell me the truth." Clips of me sitting on the kitchen floor, shaking, back when I discovered Daniel had been lying about work trips. Cut. Stitched. Manipulated. Each clip worse than the one before. I felt like I was watching a funeral slideshow. My own. And then the screen flickered. A glitch. The video stuttered, froze, jumped. Sophia gasped softly. "Did you see that?" "Yes. I did." The glitch wasn't random. It revealed a frame, just one, but long enough to burn into my memory. A storage unit. Rows of boxes. A label on the wall. Mariposa. My stomach dropped. This wasn't emotional manipulation anymore. This was evidence of something. Something they never meant for me to see. Lights shifted. Music faded. Silence dropped heavy on the room. I watched him straighten his suit jacket, touch his hair, swallow once. All theatrics. The crowd gave the polite applause of people unsure whether to clap at all. Sophia gripped my arm. "Ava, we need to go before they point the cameras at you." But I couldn't move. Because Daniel looked calm. Too calm. Like a man about to sell a story. A lie. A brand. "My friends," he began, voice steady, practiced. "I want to thank you for being here tonight. I know this is a birthday celebration, but I also wanted to share something personal." The guests murmured. He pressed a hand against his chest. Feigning vulnerability. "For the past few years, I've been living through a difficult situation. A situation I kept private, until now." My throat tightened painfully. He glanced toward the screen behind him. "You've just seen some pieces of my reality." Pieces. God. Pieces he chose. Pieces he twisted. "And I hope," he continued, voice trembling on purpose, "that by showing you the truth, I can help others recognize the warning signs, before it's too late." Sophia whispered, horrified. "He's making you sound like an abuser." He was. He absolutely was. And then Daniel said something that made my skin crawl. That video is part of a larger project I've been working on. Something meant to raise awareness and protect people from emotional volatility in relationships. The audience nodded sympathetically. And then the words. It's called Project Mariposa. The first of many. My breath caught in my throat. There it was. The name. The project. The reason. He wasn't just shaming me. He was launching something. Using me as the example. The cautionary tale. My humiliation. Was his product. Sophia whispered, he's profiting from you. Profit. Fame. Pity. A perfect cocktail for a man who cared more about perception than truth. He continued. After tonight, the full video will be released online. I hope it gives people the strength to walk away from toxic situations just like I had to. Toxic. Me. He was calling me that. My vision blurred with rage. Not tears. Not yet. Rage. Pure, molten, unforgiving. The crowd broke into applause again. She waved delicately, like a woman receiving an award for charity work. Daniel, she said into the mic. Your bravery inspires us. Your honesty will save lives. She turned toward the audience. My son suffered in silence. For years. And now. The world will finally understand what he endured. My nails dug so deep into my palms I felt my skin break. Sophia whispered, Ava, we have to stop this. But I shook my head slowly. No, I whispered. They want me broken. Silent, gone. I lifted the folded note between my fingers, the one that exposed what they were hiding. But they made one mistake. And what's that? Sophia whispered. They underestimated me. Because on the back of Daniel's note was something neither he nor Veronica realized they'd written down. Something dangerous. Something incriminating. And I was going to use it. Right here. Right now. In front of everyone. But before I could step forward, the screen behind Daniel glitched again. This time harder. Longer. And then. A single frame flashed. A frame that made my whole body go cold. A contract. Signed by Daniel. And someone named L. Cortez. Under the title, Project Mariposa Distribution Rights. The house was quiet that night, too quiet for a family that loved noise, drama, and the sound of their own voices ricocheting off polished marble floors. I lay in the guest room, staring at the ceiling fan spinning in lazy, mocking circles. Daniel hadn't come to bed. Again. I didn't even bother checking the time. The clock had stopped being my friend the moment this family started trying to rewire my reality. I exhaled slowly and reached for the folder I had hidden behind my suitcase. The one thing Daniel didn't know I had. The one thing everyone in this house hoped I would never discover. A ledger. Not a digital file, not an email, not a spreadsheet. A physical, leather-bound book with gold-embossed edges. Thick. Heavy. Old-fashioned. Something people use when they don't want a paper trail to exist, but still need one to keep themselves from drowning in their own lies. I placed it on the bed. Just touching it sent a current through my chest. This wasn't just a family's private accounting record. This was the map to everything they had tried to hide. I flipped it open. The handwriting was neat, almost elegant, definitely not Daniel's. Every line was written with the calm confidence of someone who never expected their words to be read by anyone but themselves. Deposits. Withdrawals. Cash transfers. Codes. And at the top of every single page. The same two initials. D.L. Daniel Langford. It wasn't a ledger. It was a confession. My pulse thudded in my ears as I skimmed through the entries. Luxury purchases described as house repairs. Cash withdrawals disguised as philanthropy events. Thousands no. Hundreds of thousands vanishing into consultation retainers. I whispered into the empty room. Oh my God. This wasn't just greed. This was embezzlement dressed in designer clothes. At the bottom of one page, a note was scribbled. Ensure D signs. Block her access. I froze. D. Daniel. Block her access. Me. My hands went cold. There were pages, entire sections detailing how the family finances had been merged, split, shifted, and disguised. All under the illusion that Raymond and I were partners in this household. Except I wasn't a partner. I was a shield. They needed a wife to make the numbers look balanced. A wife to make the audits look family-oriented. A wife to justify sudden gaps in funds under joint lifestyle expenses. A wife whose name could absorb blame if everything collapsed. I closed my eyes. My throat tightened. This wasn't a marriage. This was a cover story. A carefully managed narrative in which I played the unsuspecting fool. The cheerful accessory. The convenient answer to questions no accountant was supposed to ask. My breath shook as I flipped to the last section. The handwriting changed. Sharper. Rushed. Panicked. A new set of initials appeared. E.L. Daniel. His voice echoed in my memory, his excuses for late nights, unexplained transactions, sudden frustrations whenever I asked about our finances. And then I saw it. The entry that made my stomach drop. Transfer scheduled. Party night. Justify using DP event. DP. Divorce party. I pressed a hand to my mouth. My ribs felt like they were caving in. They weren't planning to hand me divorce papers at the birthday party. They were planning to funnel money through a fake divorce payout package while publicly humiliating me so I'd be too shattered to question the numbers. A spectacle. A distraction. A smokescreen. And the moment the humiliation unfolded, the money would move quietly, neatly, and permanently beyond reach. They weren't just ending the marriage. They were erasing the evidence. My eyes blurred. Not from sadness. From fury. A cold, deliberate kind of fury I had never felt before. Because in that moment, looking at that ledger, I realized something life-changing. They thought they were smart. They thought they were untouchable. They thought I was small, breakable, beatable. But they had made one fatal miscalculation. They didn't know I had the ledger. And they had absolutely no idea what I was about to do with it. There's a particular kind of stillness that settles over a house when everyone inside thinks they've won. It's an arrogant stillness, thick, smug, almost oily. That's what I felt the next morning when I stepped into the kitchen. Sunlight streamed through the French windows. Fresh orchids sat in a crystal vase. The housekeeper hummed softly as she wiped the marble counters. Everything looked peaceful. But peace is just the camouflage that predators wear after they've buried the knife. I could feel Veronica before I saw her. Her perfume arrived first. A sharp floral scent that always reminded me of the kind of woman who smiled while calculating angles, social, financial, emotional. She sat at the breakfast table in a silk robe, stirring her tea with the performance-level elegance she kept polished for public viewing. Daniel sat opposite her, scrolling through his phone, face blank, expression unreadable. A united front. Like always. I waited for even the tiniest flicker of guilt in his eyes. Nothing. Not a crack. Not a twitch. Not a shadow of recognition that he had written himself into a ledger that could take the entire family down. "Good morning," Veronica said, voice warm enough to be suspicious. I returned the smile, measuring it carefully. "Morning." Her gaze dipped to my hands, the ones she thought were empty. She had no idea the ledger was hidden in the lining of my suitcase. "How did you sleep?" she asked. "Deeply," I said. And that wasn't a lie. Real anger is grounding. It's clarifying. It quiets the noise. And leaves only strategy behind. Daniel finally looked up from his phone. "We're heading to the venue this afternoon. Mom wants to finalize the arrangement for the party. The party. The stage for my public execution. The celebration that was going to be used as the excuse for laundering their own guilt." "Of course," I said softly. "Whatever you need." His eyebrow twitched but barely. He wasn't used to me being agreeable. That was good. Agreement is the most powerful disguise in the world. I sat down at the table. The quiet settled again, heavy, watchful. My eyes drifted to the corner of the room, where a small security camera blinked. Then to the doorway. To the mirror. To the hall. Somewhere in this house, someone else knew. I wasn't sure how I sensed it. Maybe it was the subtle way the maid paused when she passed me. Maybe it was the way Daniel's phone kept lighting up with notifications he didn't open. Maybe it was the whisper I heard last night near the stairs, the one that stopped the moment I turned around. But something was off. Someone was watching me. Not to protect me, but to report. A silent witness. I took a sip of tea and let the quiet drag out. pretending to be oblivious while my thoughts ran with precision. The ledger had changed the game. But having evidence wasn't enough. That family didn't break under pressure. They thrived under it. If I came at them head-on, they'd bury me financially, socially, legally. I needed someone who wasn't in the family's pocket. Someone who already sensed something was wrong. Someone who could be my eyes where theirs couldn't see. My attention shifted again to the housekeeper. She was folding napkins with a tension that didn't match her usual calm. Her gaze kept flicking toward Daniel. Away. Back. Away again. That wasn't fear. That was knowledge. She knew something. Something she wasn't sure she should say. I lowered my voice. Could you please bring me the herbal tea from the upper cabinet? The one Veronica recommended? She hesitated. Barely a second. But hesitation speaks more loudly than words. Yes, ma'am, she said, disappearing down the hallway. The moment she was out of sight, Veronica leaned back in her chair. So. She smiled at me over the rim of her cup. You've been very quiet this morning. A test. I met her calm, composed, unreadable. Just thinking, I said. About? I let my smile widen slowly, deliberately. About how interesting this party is going to be. Daniel froze. Veronicas elich flichered. The room held its breath. Because for the first time, they felt it. A shift. A disturbance. A quiet warning from someone they thought was already broken. What they didn't realize was that I had just started playing. And the silent witness, whoever they were, was going to help me. One way or another. Evening crept over the California hills in a slow, golden descent, stretching shadows across the driveway as Daniel's SUV hummed toward the event venue. I sat in the back seat, my fingers loosely folded in my lap, looking every bit the silent, supportive wife. Inside. I was dissecting every breath in that car. Veronica sat in the passenger seat, scrolling through her tablet as she finalized rehearsal notes for the party. She looked confident, radiant, even wrapped in the glow of someone who believed she controlled the entire board. But the board had already shifted. And I was watching the pieces move. Daniel tapped the steering wheel, glancing at his mother every few seconds as if waiting for direction, or permission, or applause. He hadn't been his own man in years. Maybe he never had been. I studied him quietly. That was my first mistake in this marriage, confusing silence with innocence. The car curved down the coastal road toward the glass-walled venue overlooking the ocean. The Pacific wind howled below us, crashing against the rocks like an omen. Veronica spoke without turning around. You'll need to smile more at the party. He blinked slowly. Why? You're representing my family, she said, voice edged with sweetness. Optics. Not truth. Not honesty. Not marriage. Optics. I understand, I said. What I didn't say was that optics were about to become her downfall. The car rolled to a stop at the valet entrance. Workers were carrying in floral structures the size of small trees. Gold-plated serving carts glinted under the lights. The staff buzzed around like bees building the perfect hive one Daniel intended to rule. We entered the grand hall. Crystal chandeliers dripped from the ceiling. Illuminated panels washed the room in warm amber light. A custom stage was being assembled at the far end. Everything about the space screamed luxury and danger. Because a place this beautiful is the perfect place for someone to bleed without anyone noticing. Veronica walked ahead, pointing out decor changes with the ease of a queen controlling her castle. I stayed behind, scanning everything and everyone. That was when I saw her. The housekeeper. Not in her uniform, she was dressed in a tailored black outfit, clipboard in hand, talking to a coordinator. Her eyes lifted and locked onto mine. For half a second. Something passed between us. Recognition. Fear. A question. Then she looked away quickly, too quickly. That confirmed two things. 1. She wasn't here by coincidence. 2. She knew something dangerous. I drifted toward her slowly, choosing my moment carefully. When she stepped into a dim corridor beside the catering area, I slipped in behind her. She tensed when she felt me there. Ma'am. Her voice quivered. I didn't expect. What do you know? I asked softly. Her throat bobbed. She looked down the hallway to make sure no one was approaching. They told me not to say anything. Who? I kept my voice low. Veronica, Daniel? She shook her head, pressing her lips together. The lawyers, she whispered. And someone else. My pulse tightened. Someone else, who? She opened her mouth, panic swirling in her eyes. And then footsteps echoed down the hall. Heavy. Purposeful. She froze. I stepped back just as a tall man in a navy suit rounded the corner, broad shoulders, security earpiece, expression carved from stone. Veronica's head of security. He glanced at me, then at her. What's going on here? He asked. Her voice cracked. Just checking the catering list, sir. He studied us for a moment too long. Then he nodded stiffly and walked past, disappearing into the main hall. The housekeeper let out a trembling breath she'd been holding. I touched her arm gently. It's okay, I whispered. You're safe with me. She swallowed hard, her voice barely audible. Ma'am, you're not supposed to be here on Saturday. Chills broke across my skin. Why not? She hesitated again, tears pricking her eyes. Because they're planning something. Her voice was a strained whisper. And when it happens, they don't want you to be able to prove anything. A cold wave rolled through me. What are they planning? She opened her mouth to tell me. But another voice cut through the hallway. Sweetheart? What are you doing back here? Daniel. His tone was casual. But his eyes weren't. I turned to face him, smile perfectly timed. Oh, just looking at the catering setup. He glanced at the housekeeper, who immediately lowered her gaze. Did she say anything to you? He asked. I tilted my head innocently. Should she have? A flicker of concern or anger, or paranoia passed through his face. No, he said quickly. Come on. Mom wants to show you the stage. We walked away together. But for the rest of the night, I kept feeling the housekeeper's warning echo through me. They're planning something. And they don't want you to be able to prove anything. The luxury birthday party wasn't just a celebration. It was a trap. And now? I needed to spring it first. Night crawled over the house like a dark tide, pulling shadows into the corners and swallowing the last traces of sunshine. I stood on the balcony outside our bedroom, watching the lights of California stretch across the hills like a blurred constellation of lies. The warning replayed in my mind. That trembling voice. They don't want you there on Saturday. A trap. A setup. A plan woven so tightly they believed I'd never see it unravel. But cracks always appear. Especially when the architect of the scheme grows arrogant. Behind me, through the glass doors, I could hear Daniel in the bedroom humming to himself as he changed shirts. That casual humming irritated me in ways I didn't expect. How could someone be relaxed while orchestrating the kind of betrayal that could destroy another person? And then it hit me. He wasn't relaxed. He was rehearsed. Everything about Daniel, the humming, the pacing, the calculated calm, was a performance he believed I couldn't see through. But I wasn't the woman he married anymore. I stepped back inside. He looked up, smiling slightly too slightly. You okay? You've been quiet. Just thinking, I said. About what? About how well your mother plans things, I replied softly. His expression faltered just a shade but enough to confirm everything. He swallowed. Yeah, she's good at logistics. Logistics, I echoed, turning away so he couldn't see the small, knowing smile tug at my lips. I walked to my vanity and opened the drawer not because I needed anything, but because I needed to see his reaction. Inside the drawer lay my passport, tucked beside jewelry boxes and a few memory cards. I touched it lightly. Daniel stiffened behind me. He tried to hide it, but I saw it in the mirror. The micro-freeze. The quick dart of his eyes. The faint tightening of his throat. Why do you still keep that passport there? He asked, too casually. I didn't answer. Instead, I pulled it out and flipped it open. I wasn't looking at the passport. I was watching him. He shifted again. Small movements. Barely noticeable. But enough. Something about that passport mattered to him. Which meant something about me leaving mattered to him. Not emotionally. Not romantically. Strategically. I snapped the passport shut and turned to him. His smile was thin now. Everything okay? He didn't blink. Yes, why wouldn't it be? He forced a laugh. No reason. Just checking. I placed the passport gently on the vanity and let silence stretch between us, thin, cold, loaded. He sat at the edge of the bed, rubbing his palms together, visibly unsettled. "What are you really thinking about?" he asked. I took a step closer. Then another. And another until I was standing directly in front of him, my voice low enough to vibrate in the air. "I'm thinking," I said, "about what people do when they're afraid of being exposed." His shoulders tensed. "Exposed for what?" he whispered. "That," I said softly, "is what I'm trying to figure out." He stood abruptly. "I'm going downstairs." And he left without another word. I waited until I heard his steps fade down the staircase. Waited until the house settled again. Then I opened the vanity drawer and reached behind the jewelry box. I wasn't looking for the passport. I was checking the memory cards. 3 were there. But one was missing. My pulse tightened. I knew exactly which one wasn't there. The one from last month. The one I'd used while recording footage for a vlog I never posted. The one that accidentally captured a whispered argument between Marcella and her lawyer in the living room. A conversation I thought nothing of at the time. But that now it meant everything. And someone had taken it. Not just taken it. Removed it from the house entirely. A shadow moved outside the bedroom door. Soft footsteps. Someone paused. Listening. Then walked away. My entire spine chilled. This house wasn't just hostile. It was alive. It was watching. And someone inside it was trying to erase traces of something I wasn't supposed to see. The missing memory card. The passport. The warning from the housekeeper. The walls weren't closing in. They were shifting around me, reorganizing themselves to trap me in the deepest part of their design. But traps, no matter how well constructed, always reveal the shape of their maker. I picked up my phone and took a shaky breath. I knew what I had to do next. Not run. Not retaliate. Not yet. I needed to uncover the real plan. The entire plan. Not the hints. Not the rumors. Not the shadows. The truth. The full truth behind that party. And the missing memory card was my first breadcrumb. I reached for my suitcase. The one with the ledger hidden inside. And zipped it halfway open. Then a voice echoed from downstairs, sharp and impatient. "Come down, please. We need to discuss Saturday." Veronica. Of course. I closed the suitcase slowly. Saturday. The party. The trap. And I was done walking into their plans blind. Tonight. I would open the next door. One they didn't want me to find. The house felt colder than it had any right to be. Not the kind of cold born from weather or an overpowered AC unit, no. This was the chill that seeps from tension, from secrets piled so high they steal the warmth from the walls. I walked down the staircase with the calm of someone who'd already made a choice. And I had. I wasn't waiting for the truth anymore. I was going to tear it out of the shadows myself. Veronica stood in the living room, arms crossed, posture sharpened like a weapon. Daniel sat on the arm of the couch, restless energy rolling off him in waves. Across the room, the head of security Nathan stood near the window, watching everything with predator stillness. Something was different. The room was staged. Not for comfort. Not for conversation. For control. Marcella smiled tightly as I entered. "We need to discuss the order of events for Saturday." Order of events. Her choice of words told me everything. Events. Plural. Planned. Structured. Calculated. I sat on the couch slowly, letting silence hang long enough to make her uneasy. "All right," I said softly. "Tell me what you need me to do." She lit up just slightly, mistaking cooperation for surrender. "First," she said, pacing closer. "You'll walk in with the family. Optics matter." There it was again. Optics. Image. Narrative. Not reality. "And after that?" I asked. "You'll stay by Daniel during the introduction. Smile. Be gracious. Let people see that everything is fine. Everything is fine. Is it?" I asked quietly. Her smile twitched. "A marriage always has challenges, dear. But what matters is..." "What matters," I interrupted, "is what you're planning to do at that party." Daniel stiffened. Nathan's eyes narrowed. Veronica tilted her head, a slow predatory gesture. "I'm not sure what you think we're planning." Really? I asked. Then why don't we start with the fact that someone took the memory card from my vanity drawer? Daniel's head whipped toward me. What memory card? I ignored him. And why? I continued. Your housekeeper told me I shouldn't be there on Saturday. Daniel's voice sharpened. Who said that? She didn't mean anything by it. Veronica said quickly. Maybe you misheard her. No, I said softly. She said exactly what she meant. Nathan shifted his stance, subtle but defensive. Veronica's voice thinned into ice. You're imagining conspiracies. That's why we wanted to talk to you tonight. You've clearly been under stress. Stress. The word she used for everything she couldn't control. I leaned back on the couch, voice steady. What exactly is supposed to happen at that party, Veronica? She paused. Just long enough for the air to thicken. Then. Nothing, she said. A small announcement, that's all. My heartbeat slowed. The divorce? She smiled, cruel and beautiful. Better to control the narrative early, don't you think? People talk. We'd prefer they talk about. A mutual decision. A mutual decision, I repeated flatly. Announced at a party. Daniel looked at the floor. Nathan stared at me with unblinking intensity. Veronica moved closer. So you see, there's no reason to panic. As long as you cooperate, your image remains intact. My image. Their currency. Their weapon. Their leash. And if I don't cooperate? Her eyes hardened. Then the story becomes yours alone. A chill slid down my spine, not from fear, but from clarity. Their plan wasn't simply to embarrass me. Or blindside me with divorce papers. Or cut me out of the family. They were going to paint me as the problem. Stubborn. Unstable. Difficult. The missing memory card. The staged conversations. The passport. It all made sense now. They weren't just divorcing me. They were building a case. But instead of rage, something else rose inside me. Something colder, quieter, sharper. Resolve. I stood slowly. You know, I said, I used to think your family was intimidating. Veronica frowned. But now? I shook my head gently. You're predictable. Daniel stepped toward me. What does that mean? It means, I said, that if I were planning something that required me to be absent, I'd make sure the target didn't suspect a thing. Veronica stiffened. Nathan's hand moved toward his radio. And I smiled. Not sweetly. Not politely. Strategically. I'll be at the party, I said. Right on time. You should rest. Veronica said firmly. You look tired. I stepped around her slowly, deliberately. I'm not tired, I whispered. I'm awake now. I walked toward the staircase. But behind me, I heard it. A whisper. Veronica's voice low, rattled, leaking panic. She knows. And then Nathan. I'll take care of it. My blood iced. He didn't look back. I didn't give them the satisfaction. I ascended the stairs with slow, measured steps. And when I reached the top landing, I finally let the truth fully settle. They weren't planning to humiliate me. They were planning to remove me. And the party wasn't the trap. Tonight was. I didn't go to the bedroom. Not yet. I walked past it, past the guest suite, past the study where Daniel pretended to work late nights. And stopped at the end of the hallway. The door to his private office. The one he always locked. The one he always said was. Just work stuff. Tonight the door was slightly open. Barely. But enough. The house was too quiet. Too still. I could hear my own pulse in my ears as I pushed the door open. Inside, the office was dim, only the desk lamp glowing in a warm halo of amber. Papers were scattered across the wooden surface. A laptop hummed softly, screen still lit. And then, my breath caught. Because right there, right on top of the desk, sat the missing memory card. Placed casually, deliberately, like a silent challenge. Or a warning. They wanted me to find it. But why? My fingers hovered above it. I didn't touch it. Not yet. Instead, my eyes scanned the room, searching for any sign that this was a trap, an ambush, a setup, a stage. Nothing moved. No shadows. No footsteps, no breathing except my own. I slid the memory card into the laptop slowly, each click echoing through the silence like a countdown. The screen opened a folder automatically. And I saw it. The footage. My footage. The one from last month. I clicked the video. The audio was faint at first, the rustling of papers, the clinking of glass, then voices. Veronica's voice. Sharp. Clipped. Hushed. She won't fight back. She's too naive. Then the lawyer's voice. We just need her signature. After that, everything moved smoothly. The video crackled. Daniel's voice entered. She won't sign unless we push her. Push her. Push me. My nails dug into my palms. Then the lawyer again. Colder this time. If she becomes a problem, the prenup gives you leverage. If she refuses to cooperate, there are other ways to make her. Other ways. I felt something inside me bend, then fracture. Because that was the moment. The exact moment. I realized they had never seen me as family. Never seen me as a partner. Or daughter-in-law. Or human being. I was an obstacle. A detail. A loose thread in their financial tapestry. Not a person. A tool. And they were done using me. I closed the video and leaned back in the chair, letting the dark silence swallow me. That's when I heard his voice behind me. You weren't supposed to watch that. I didn't jump. I didn't flinch. I turned slowly. Daniel stood in the doorway, no anger, no guilt. Just resignation. Almost sadness. Why? I whispered. Why would you do this to me? He swallowed, throat bobbing. You weren't supposed to see it like this. Like what? My voice rose, trembling. The truth? He stepped closer. It wasn't personal. It wasn't personal? The words tore out of me. You used me, you lied to me. You planned to humiliate me in front of hundreds of people. How is that not personal? He ran a hand through his hair, pacing like a man caught in his own maze. This is complicated. No, I cut in. It's simple. You betrayed me. He froze. His jaw clenched. This family, it's not like other families, he said. There's pressure. Expectations. Responsibilities you don't understand. You're right, I said coldly. I don't understand betrayal as a responsibility. He exhaled sharply, frustration leaking through. You were never supposed to get hurt. That wasn't the plan. The plan, I repeated bitterly, was to leave me with nothing. He didn't deny it. He didn't even try. Instead, he lowered his voice. I told them not to push you. I told them we should wait. My breath caught. We? I echoed. So you were involved. Of course I was involved, he snapped. You married into a system, not a family. And you were never prepared for what that meant. I stared at him, really stared. For the first time, he wasn't hiding behind charm or manners. He was showing me the man behind the mask. The man who'd been raised in this world. Shaped by it. Owned by it. The man who chose them, over me. Do you love me at all? I whispered. He froze. Silence. Long. Heavy. Deadly. And then. I tried, he said softly. Not I do. Not I always have. I tried. That was the moment my heart broke, not because he didn't love me, but because he genuinely believed that was enough. A tear slipped down my cheek. He stepped closer. Don't cry. Please. I stepped back. And my voice came out in a whisper sharpened by devastation. You're afraid. His eyes widened. Of what? He asked. Of me. I brushed past him and walked toward the door. He caught my wrist, not roughly, but desperately. Don't go, he said. We're not done talking. I looked him dead in the eyes. Yes, I said softly. We are. I pulled my wrist free. He didn't stop me. He just stood there, watching me leave. Like a man who realized too late that he had miscalculated the one variable that mattered. Me. Tomorrow, I would begin the final phase. The part where I stopped reacting. And started retaliating. Night in a mansion is never truly silent. It breathes. It shifts. It settles and creaks in ways that make you question whether the house is alive, or simply holding its secrets too tightly. I woke to one of those sounds. Not a creak. Not the hum of the AC. Not even the distant crash of Miami waves against the shore. This was different. A soft whisper of movement inside the walls, like fingertips dragging lightly over plaster. I sat up in bed, pulse steady but alert. Earlier that evening, the housekeeper had slipped the folded note into my hand as she handed me a towel. Her voice didn't change. Her expression didn't break. But the note. You're not safe here at night. Don't sleep too deeply. Someone listens. Someone listens. The phrase played itself in my mind as I stood and crossed the room barefoot. I pressed my palm to the wall. There it was again, movement. Subtle, slow, almost cautious. And it wasn't an animal. It was too deliberate. I followed the sound to the corner where the wall panels met the built-in shelves. A faint draft slipped through the cracks. A hidden vent? A servant corridor? A surveillance route? I didn't know yet. But someone was using it at night. A floorboard shifted in the hallway. Soft but unmistakable. I turned quickly, my breath catching. The hallway light slipped under the door, then dimmed, as if someone had paused outside my room, listening. My hand hovered near the bedside lamp, ready to use it as a weapon if I had to. Seconds stretched, long and thin. Then, a slow drag of footsteps continued down the hall. Unhurried, measured. Whoever it was, wanted me to know they were there. They wanted the sound to reach me. This wasn't stalking. This was messaging. I waited until the steps faded completely before I set my plan in motion. I opened my suitcase quietly and pulled out the item I hadn't used in years, a compact audio recorder. Something I kept for interviews back when my life was simpler. Back when lies didn't hang in the air like humidity. I placed it behind the vent opening near the shelves, angled just right. Then I slipped back under the covers. Minutes passed. 10. 20. Enough time for anyone watching to think I'd fallen asleep again. Then, a soft click behind the wall. A sliding noise. A hushed voice I couldn't make out. Followed by something more chilling. A faint, controlled exhale. Like someone standing inches away on the other side of the plaster. Listening to me. He didn't move. Not yet. Not until I heard the whisper. A real whisper. Quiet. Intentional. A voice close enough that, without the recorder, I wouldn't have believed it came from inside a wall. Don't trust him. My blood froze. Don't trust who? Daniel? Veronica? Someone else in the house? The recorder captured every second of it. I forced my breathing to stay slow. Calm. Believable. After a full minute of silence, the presence behind the wall disappeared. The faint draft returned. Then nothing. I waited until dawn before touching the recorder. When I finally replayed it, the voice was clearer than I expected. Female. Young. Afraid. But determined. Not the housekeeper. Not Veronica. Not anyone I recognized. And the message was unmistakable. Don't trust him. He'll ruin you like he ruined the others. Others. Plural. Who were the others? What happened to them? And why was I hearing about it from inside a wall? The housekeeper's earlier warning repeated in my mind like a drumbeat. Someone listens. But now I knew the truth. Someone wasn't just listening. Someone was watching everything unravel. Someone trapped inside the secrets of this house. And that someone wanted to help me. Before the family silenced her too. Dawn crept into the mansion like a thief, quiet, pale, unwelcome. I sat on the edge of my bed, the audio recorder in my hand, replaying the whisper again and again, each time hearing a new layer under the fear. Don't trust him. He'll ruin you like he ruined the others. Others. That word felt like a cold fingertip pressed against my spine. Who were they? What happened to them? And why did a stranger in the walls know enough to warn me? I dressed quickly and slipped out of my room. The hallway was empty, but the air felt observed. The mansion had learned to breathe with me, to anticipate my steps. I headed downstairs toward the one place where truth always leaks through the cracks, not the offices, not the study. The kitchen. People talk where the powerful think the conversation's beneath them. The housekeeper was alone. Wiping down the counter with movements that were too stiff. Too focused. Not cleaning, stalling. Her eyes lifted when I stepped inside. A flicker of recognition. Then worry. I didn't waste time. How many others? Her hand froze mid-wipe. She didn't ask what I meant. She didn't pretend confusion. She didn't play dumb. She only said, "You shouldn't have hurt her." Her. So the voice behind the wall wasn't a hallucination, wasn't a trick, wasn't paranoia clawing up my throat. She was real. "You know her?" I pressed. The housekeeper's jaw tightened. "I know she shouldn't be here anymore. Why is she in the walls?" A long silence followed. She looked toward the doorway, checking, listening, calculating. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "This family doesn't fire people. They remove them." A cold wave washed over me. "Remove?" I repeated. She nodded, slow and painful. "Some leave quietly. Some disappear quietly. Some choose to hide when they realize leaving quietly isn't an option. And she's one of them?" Her eyes softened with something I didn't expect. Guilt. I tried to help her, I tried to warn her. But once they think you've seen too much. She swallowed hard. "There's nowhere safe except the places no one thinks to look. The walls. The vents. The forgotten spaces behind the mansion's expensive stage." I leaned closer. What did she see? The housekeeper wiped at a non-existent stain, her hand trembling. It wasn't one thing. It was many. She set the cloth down. And all of them started with him. Her eyes didn't move, but I knew exactly who she meant. Daniel. The charming, polished, curated man who wore integrity like a designer suit, tailored to hide the stains underneath. "What about the others?" I asked. The housekeeper exhaled shakily and moved to the pantry. She pretended to restock shelves, but every move was deliberate, creating the illusion of casual conversation. "There used to be a list," she murmured. "A list of girls who worked here, dated him, helped him, trusted him, and vanished from the picture when they became inconvenient." She slid a jar forward. "Some left the city. Some lost everything. Some were never heard from again." My stomach tightened. "How do you know?" She pushed another item forward, blocking the pantry door from view. "I found her notebook before she disappeared." A beat. I hid it. The world seemed to tilt. "Where is it now?" She hesitated. Fear warred with loyalty. But in her eyes, something had changed since the whisper I'd heard last night. She finally murmured, "I'll give it to you. But not here. Not now." Her voice shook. "They watch the cameras in the common rooms. They listen through the walls. They know too much already." The mansion suddenly felt smaller, tight, suffocating, pressing in from all sides. A prison with chandeliers. "Then when?" I asked. "Tonight," she whispered. "When everyone is at the party rehearsal, meet me by the pool house, no cameras there." "Will she be there too?" I asked softly. The housekeeper paused. "No," she said. "She won't leave the walls while he's awake." A hollow ache formed in my chest. "What's her name?" The housekeeper hesitated. Then answered as if speaking a ghost into existence. "Elara. Elara." A name like a falling star, brief, bright, lost too quickly. And now, she was living inside the mansion's bones. Hiding from the same man who had promised me partnership, loyalty, a future. Raymond wasn't just dangerous. He was a pattern. A quiet storm that erased the women who got too close. And I was next on his list. Unless Alara's notebook told me how to stop him. Unless I could gather the evidence before he sensed the shift. Unless I moved before he did. Because one thing was certain. Daniel had ruined the others. And I had every intention of becoming the exception. The mansion glimmered like a diamond dipped in honey, chandeliers refracting golden light over every polished surface. Outside, the coastal breeze whispered through the palms, carrying the faint scent of the ocean and something darker. I stood at the edge of the pool house, hidden in the shadows. The housekeeper had led me here after the rehearsal. The notebook was tucked under my arm, heavy with the weight of Alara's secrets, each page a confession, a roadmap of deceit, manipulation, and betrayal. Tonight, Veronica's birthday party would begin. Tonight, they planned to humiliate me. Tonight, I would turn the tables. The first guests arrived, sipping champagne, laughing politely. Their smiles were all veneer, all performance. Inside, I could feel the gears turning, the family's plan, ticking like a clock I had finally learned to read. I opened Alara's notebook. She had documented everything. Financial manipulations, coercion, disappearances, even recordings I hadn't known existed. Every piece fit together like a puzzle I could finally see in full. I slipped my phone into my clutch, connected to a small hidden speaker in the hall. A signal. A recording ready to play when the timing was perfect. Veronica floated past. Radiant in silk and diamonds, confident, arrogant. Daniel followed her like a shadow, smiling when he saw me. A small, knowing smirk. They had no idea what I now held. Guests were assembling in the main hall for the stage presentation. Veronica took the microphone first, smiling. She launched into her speech about family, loyalty, celebration. I walked calmly through the crowd, a smile of serene composure on my face. I could feel the murmurs' eyes on me. The whispers rising. The tension crackling. And then, I pressed play. Alara's recorded voice echoed through the hall, crystal clear. He doesn't just betray, he destroys. One by one. Don't trust him. Gasps erupted. Champagne glasses wobbled in hands. Veronica froze mid-sentence. Daniel's face went pale as the crowd's attention snapped to me. I held the microphone effortlessly now, the party unfolding like a stage in my favor. I think it's time the truth is heard, I said softly, voice steady, commanding. And I have a friend who's been hiding in the walls, gathering the pieces you thought no one would ever see. Alara's presence, captured in every recording, pulsed through the speakers. Evidence of every manipulation, every plan, every threat. The family tried to mask their panic. Veronica's smile faltered. Daniel's smirk disappeared. Guests leaned closer, sensing the unraveling of a story far bigger than a birthday party. I held the microphone higher, my voice strong. This isn't just about me anymore. This is about every woman he has tried to erase. Every secret hidden behind closed doors. And now, everyone sees the truth. The murmurs grew louder. Cameras flashed. Veronica's hands shook. Daniel swallowed, unable to say a word. I stepped down the stage slowly, letting the crowd see my calm, controlled composure. The ledger, the notebook, the recordings, all evidence in my hands, all truth unmasked. Veronica finally stepped forward, her voice trembling. You can't. I already did, I said. Her eyes darted to Daniel. His lips parted, and for the first time, he had nothing to say. No rehearsed words. No controlled optics. No smirk. Because I had stripped it all away. And in that moment, the party became more than celebration. It became a reckoning. A public, inescapable reckoning. And the room knew it. I didn't shout. I didn't need to. Silence, heavy and suffocating, fell over the mansion as the evidence played. Tonight, they learned a simple truth. Power built on fear is fragile. And those who betray others eventually face the mirror of their own design. The mansion was quiet now. But not empty. The echoes of the party still hung in the air, chandeliers swaying slightly, the soft clink of leftover glasses, whispers carried on the breeze that slipped through the open balcony doors. I sat in the quiet room overlooking the ocean, the notebook still open beside me. Ilara's words, the recordings, the ledger, it all felt heavier now that the confrontation was over. Not with fear, but with clarity. I thought of the guests, of Veronica's stunned silence, of Daniel's pale, unsettled face. The masks they wore had fallen. The walls they built around their carefully curated lives had crumbled. And I had watched it happen. Quietly, deliberately. I leaned back in the chair, letting my mind wander through the chain of events. Every betrayal, every lie, every plan. All visible now. It was strange how powerless I had felt for so long. And how powerful that same feeling could become once the truth was finally unveiled. Daniel appeared in the doorway. No words at first. Only eyes meeting mine, hesitation, regret, disbelief. I did not invite him in. I did not speak. I only let him stand there, absorbing the weight of what had transpired. You didn't have to, he started. I held up a hand, cutting him off. I didn't do it for you. I did it for me. For every woman who could have been erased. For every life you thought you could control. His shoulders slumped. Nothing more could be said. Nothing more needed. Outside, the first light of morning touched the California hills. The ocean shimmered. A soft breeze whispered promises of new beginnings. I picked up the notebook, the audio recorder, and the ledger. Everything that had once been a weapon against me had become my shield, my power, my liberation. And in that moment, I understood. Revenge wasn't about cruelty. It was about truth. And truth was stronger than any lie they had told. I walked to the balcony, letting the wind whip through my hair. The mansion behind me still held echoes of fear and arrogance. But the fear no longer belonged to me. It belonged to them. And for the first time in years, I felt something I had almost forgotten. Peace. The mansion was silent now. The echoes of the party were gone, replaced by the soft hum of life continuing outside its walls. The ocean whispered secrets I no longer needed to fear. I stood on the balcony, notebook in hand, replaying the lessons it had gifted me. Elara's courage, the recordings, the ledger, they weren't just evidence of betrayal. They were proof that truth could survive, even when buried under power, lies, and manipulation. I thought of Daniel, Veronica, the housekeeper, and even the shadows of those others who had disappeared before me. The world had shifted in subtle ways tonight. Not with violence. Not with screaming. But with clarity. With exposure. With justice served quietly, efficiently, irrevocably. I had learned something profound. You cannot control what others do. You cannot stop betrayal or greed. But you can control your response. You can watch, wait, and choose the moment to act. And when that moment comes, your power is undeniable. I closed the notebook and tucked it safely into my bag. The evidence would eventually find the right hands. But for now, I didn't need revenge anymore. I needed freedom. I needed peace. I needed to live without fear. The mansion, which had once felt like a prison, now seemed smaller, somehow its walls powerless, its schemes exposed. I smiled quietly to myself. I turned away from the balcony and toward the future. And as I stepped out the front door into the soft California dawn, I whispered, I am no longer their story. I am my own. The past had shaped me, but it would not define me. And the lesson lingered like the last note of a symphony. Truth, courage, and patience are stronger than manipulation, deceit, or fear. And no one, not even those who thought they had all the control, can steal that. The wind carried the final words with it. I survived. Iendurat. I won. And now, I was free.